Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about more expressions and simplifying. We're going to be doing that talking about evaluating. You're going to need your calculator for this, so if you don't have it, you want to go ahead and pick it up. But if you have it, let's go ahead and get started right now. So we have two steps in solving any evaluating problem. Step one, we're going to be substituting the variable with the numbers. That means to replace the variables that we have with numbers. Another way to think about this is plugging in, but if plugging in is not really a math term, so we're going to be using substitute. Step two, we're going to use the order of operations to simplify the expression. Now, good news, we don't have to worry about doing order of operations without a calculator. Now that we have a calculator in Unit 4, order of operations should go much smoother. So let's go ahead and get started with example A right now. So here we are at example A, and it says if A is equal to 8 and B is equal to 3, simplify the expression. So we're going to have to remember our two steps. Our first step is to substitute. So we're going to plug in the variables that we have there with the numbers that we were given. So we were told that A is equal to 8. We were told B is equal to 3, so we're going to plug those in or substitute. And when I do that, I'm going to make sure that I put parentheses around the number. If I don't do that, when I plug in the 8 and the 3, it's going to look like 83 instead of 8 times 3. So it's very, very, very important that every time that we substitute, we use parentheses to show that we've done that. So now I've plugged in my 8 for A, I've plugged in my 3 for B, and I've plugged in my other 3 for B. So now I'm going to just use the order of operations. So I've got multiplication and subtraction. I'm going to be doing the multiplication first, so 8 times 3. And again, if you're not great with your multiplication and you're not really sure about your integer rules, you want to use that calculator. So we do 8 times 3, that's going to give us 24. Then we're going to bring down our minus sign, bring down our 3 inside our parentheses. Now all we've got left to do is 24 minus 3. 24 minus 3 is 21, and that's it. That's the end of our problem. And I want to make sure that I circle it so that my teacher can easily locate it on my paper, whether that's classwork or whether it's a test or quiz. Let's take a look at example B. So here we are at example B, and it says if m is equal to negative 9, simplify the expression. So I've got 5m divided by 6 minus 3 times m. So I'm going to substitute in that negative 9 for both m's, and I'm going to remember that I'm going to use parentheses to do so, because otherwise it's going to look like 5 minus 9 instead of 5 times negative 9. So now that I've done that, I'm going to be applying the order of operations, and it looks like I have a bunch of choices here, but I'm going to handle the big division problem on the left-hand side first. So I'm going to start at the top, and 5 times negative 9 is where I'm going to begin. 5 times negative 9 is negative 45. Bring down my divided by 6. Then carry down my minus 3, and the parentheses negative 9. All right, now I've got to do negative 45 divided by 6. Luckily, I have my calculator because I don't think that negative 45 divided by 6 comes out evenly. So I'm going to type negative 45 divided by 6 on my calculator, and I should get negative 7.5. It's okay to get a decimal. It's fine. Decimals are a part of life. Bring down your minus 3. Bring down inside your parentheses negative 9. Now I've got subtraction and I've got multiplication. Since I'm following the order of operations, I'm going to be multiplying. So I can either do 3 times negative 9 or negative 3 times negative 9. Both will work out. I'm going to do 3 times negative 9. So I'm going to bring down my negative 7.5. 3 times negative 9 is negative 27. Bring that down. Now I've got negative 7.5 minus 27. Now you can remember that a minus and a minus is going to give you a plus. And if you do that, that's going to be fantastic if you remember that integer rule. If you don't remember that integer rule, you can just type straight in your calculator, negative 7.5 minus negative 27. And the calculator will give you the correct answer if you type it in correctly. And that is going to be 19.5. I'm going to go ahead and circle my answer on my paper so that it's easily able to be located on a test or a quiz or classwork. And let's move on to the next example. Here we are at example C, and I've got 3 different things to be substituting this time. W is going to get 7, X is going to get negative 1, and Y is going to get negative 4. So let's go ahead and do that. Don't forget that we want to make sure that we have our parentheses used every single time that we do that. So I've done that now. I've plugged in my negative 1, my negative 4, and my 7. Notice that I have parentheses within parentheses to make sure that that 7 has a parentheses when it was substituted in. Now we're going to follow the order of operations. So I'm going to be working with my parentheses parentheses first, so I'm going to underline that because that's the section I'm going to be working with. Everything else was not touched, so I'm going to just bring that down as is. Minus 5, and inside the parentheses, 4 minus 7. Again, if you don't know your integer rules, use that calculator. For 4 minus 7 is going to give us negative 3. Now we've got a whole bunch of multiplication to handle. We can do the multiplication all at once on the left-hand side. 2 times negative 1 times negative 4. Again, if you're not sure, use your calculator. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 4 is going to give me positive 8. Bring down everything else as I see it above. Now I've got another multiplication problem to handle. I've got 5 times negative 3. 5 times negative 3 is going to give me negative 15. So I'm going to bring down my 8, bring down my minus sign, bring down my negative 15. And now I've got 8 minus 15. And again, if I know my integer rules where I can turn them both negative into a positive, that's fantastic. However, if you don't, you can just type straight in your calculator 8 minus 15, or 8 minus negative 15, and the calculator will give you the correct answer if you type it in correctly. And if you do that, you should end up with positive 23. And again, circle your answer so it's easily locatable for your teacher on test, quiz, or classwork. Let's go on to the final example. Here we are at example D. We've got k is equal to 8, n is equal to 2, and we're going to simplify that expression. This time we've got exponents, but that doesn't change anything. We still want to make sure that we have our parentheses around all of our numbers. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we brought in our 8s and we brought in our 2. Notice that I've still got within parentheses, I've still got 2 inside the parentheses. So I've got a larger set of parentheses and then a smaller set of parentheses, because I always want to make sure that I use parentheses when substituting. Now we're going to run the order of operations. We're going to start with our grouping symbol. So we've got our 2 minus 3. That's what we're going to start with. Everything else is not touched, so we're going to bring that down exactly as I see it above, because I don't want to make any mistakes in my copying. 2 minus 3 is going to give me negative 1. Now I'm going to move on to the exponents. So 8 squared, again, if I don't know what 8 squared is, I can use my calculator, but 8 times 8 is 64. Bring down everything else exactly as I see it above. Now I've got some multiplication to do. 2 times 8. 2 times 8 is 16, so I'm going to bring everything else down exactly as I see it above. Now, I've got a whole bunch of addition and subtraction. And once I've got just addition and subtraction, now that I have a calculator, I can type that just straight in. I could type in 64 plus 16 minus negative 1, and that will give me the correct answer if I type it in correctly. Now, you could do 64 plus 16, get that answer, and then do minus negative 1. There's nothing wrong with that, but as long as we've got just addition and subtraction on our final line, we can type that straight into our calculator and get the correct answer. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and when I do that, I get 81, and so should you. So go ahead and circle that answer, and then let's move on to some practice on your own. Here we are at practice number 1. I want you to go ahead and try this one on your own. Remember to use those parentheses when substituting. Here we've got a large division problem, so make sure you're going to do everything on the top before dividing by negative 7. So go ahead and pause that video now, do the best that you can, then press play again to see if you are right. How did you do? Were you able to come up with the improper fraction that I came up with? Now, if you type 45 divided by negative 7 in your calculator, you probably got 6.4 repeating or not repeating on forever and ever and ever and never stopping. So, since we don't want to write that out, we're going to be leaving our answer as an improper fraction. Anytime that we don't get a decimal that easily repeats, a decimal that terminates, or an integer, we want to leave our answer as an improper fraction. We don't want to turn it to a mixed number. We just want to leave it as an improper fraction. Let's go on to practice number 2. Here we are at practice problem number 2. I want you to go ahead and try this one on your own. So go ahead and pause the video now, do the best that you can, and then press play again to see if you are right. How did you do? Were you able to get the same answer that I got? Hopefully you did. Notice this time that we've got a decimal that does terminate, so we're going to make sure that we use our decimal terminating there as our answer. We wouldn't be able to show our final answer as 45 minus 8 divided by negative 5 anyway. Hopefully you got the same answer that I did. If not, go ahead and look back through my work to see where you may have made your mistake. Then that brings us to the end of this video. So if you like this video, go ahead and throw us a thumbs up. If you love this video, go ahead and throw us a sub, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye.